Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel. In today's video I will be sharing with you how to make yet another granny square, although this time it's not really going to be a square, it will be this super cute sunflower hexagon. As you might know, on my channel you can already find a tutorial on how to make sunflower granny square, so this pattern is going to be very similar to the one that's already available, but there are some changes within how many stitches are needed for each round, as well as obviously the shape at the end will be different as well. However, I do hope that you will enjoy and I hope that you will learn something new as well. And as always, I have made sure that this video is as beginner friendly as possible, so I'm really going into depth with every single stitch and every single step, so just to make sure that every beginner will also be able to follow it. But now, without further ado, let's jump into it. Here are the materials that I'm going to use. Here I have 8-ply cotton yarn in 4 colors, and this is the brand that I'm using for this project. Of course, you will also need a crochet hook, and for this I'm using 5mm crochet hook, and you will also need scissors. But now let's get started. So first I will be starting with this brown color, and our first step is to create a magic ring. So for that you just have to grab the yarn and then tie it around your fingers like this to establish an X shape here. Then take your crochet hook and go underneath the first piece of yarn here, and then grab the second one and pull it up to kind of establish a loop on your hook like this. And then just to make it secure, we just have to chain one, so grabbing yarn and pulling it through the loop here like this. So this is basically our magic ring, and from now on we can move forward. So our next step is to chain 2 additional chains, so doing one more here and another one, and this in total gives us 3 chains. And also in this case this is going to count as 1 stitch, and for us we can consider this as 1 double crochet. And double crochets are going to be the stitches that we are going to do in this magic ring. So in total we will have to do 11 double crochets, and because we have this chain of 3, that is going to count as 12. So if you're not familiar with double crochets, I'm going to teach you it right now. So for double crochet you just have to yarn over, then go through the magic ring and grab yarn, then pull it up through the magic ring to have 3 loops on your hook, then yarn over and pull through 2 like this, yarn over again and pull through remaining 2 here. So this is 1 double crochet. So basically now we have 2 double crochet stitches, so it's left for us to do 10 more. So let's do another one together. So here I'm just yarning over, then going through the magic ring, grabbing yarn and pulling it up to have 3 loops, then yarning over and going through 2 like this, then yarning over again and pulling through remaining 2 like that. So just repeating that until we have 12 stitches in total, which also includes our chain of 3 that we did in the very beginning. And I will meet you back once this is finalized and we can close this first round. Also, when doing these stitches, make sure that you have 2 pieces of yarn here, so every stitch that you're doing, you are covering both of these pieces. And if you're feeling like you're running out of this one, you can just easily pull it and you will get more of it. So just keep that in mind, that all of the stitches that you're doing, all of them have to cover both pieces of yarn here, just as I am doing it right now. Here I have completed all 12 stitches, so we have this chain of 3 that we did in the very beginning, as well as we have 11 double crochets. And now we can actually finalize this round, and first step for us is to actually close this ring. And to do that we simply just have to pull this loose piece of yarn that we have here, and as we are pulling it you can see that the ring is closing and we are establishing a very nice and smooth round shape. So now we can actually connect it, and to do that we will basically be doing a slip stitch. And for slip stitch, we will be just going through the third chain here that we have in the very beginning. So let's do that. Basically, just go through this third chain here, then grab yarn and pull it through like this. So you now have 2 loops on your hook, and then take this loop and pull it through the loop that you already had before, like this. So now you can see that it's connected very smoothly and we can actually finish off. So for that, we just have to chain 1 like this, then making the loop a little bit looser, and then just grabbing our scissors and we can cut off yarn here. And now I can just remove this one and we can just pull the yarn here, and as we are pulling it, you can see that we are creating kind of like a secure knot. And with this, we are done with the first round here. So now we can continue with the second round, and for that I'm going to use this slightly orange color. So our first step is to actually attach yarn, and for that I'm just grabbing yarn and we will be attaching it to a random stitch from the previous round. It doesn't really matter where exactly you are doing it, so I'm just going to go through 1 stitch here with my crochet hook, and then just grabbing yarn and pulling it through like this, and then attaching it by making a secure knot here. So now we have attached the yarn and we are sure that it's not going to untie or unravel later on in the process. So now we can proceed further with the second round, and first we have to pull up a loop here like this. And then our next step is to chain 2, so 1 and 2, and this is going to support us with starting with the first stitch. And throughout this round we will be doing puff stitches, and all of them will be going into the stitches here that we have from the previous round. So at the end of this round we should have 12 puff stitches in total. So let's start doing 1 already together now. So since we have this chain of 2, for the first puff stitch we will have to do a little bit less yarn overs compared to others, so just keeping that in mind. And for that we just have to yarn over here and then going through the stitch that we are already starting from, then grabbing yarn and pulling it up and kind of extending it in a longer loop here, then repeating the process again, yarning over and going through the same stitch again, pulling up yarn and again extending it like this. So in total for this first stitch that we are creating, we did 2 steps of the yarn over, and that's applying only for the first one. For the following ones we will do it 3 times, but at the end of the first one we should have 5 loops in total. And then our next step is to yarn over and go through all the loops that we have here like this, and this counts as 1 puff stitch. After that, to proceed further with the next stitch, we just have to chain 1 like this, and then we can move forward with the next one. So let's do another one together. So first I'm yarning over, then going through this stitch, grabbing yarn and pulling it up and extending it, yarning over again and going through the stitch, grabbing yarn and pulling it up like that, and doing it another time. Yarning over, going through that same stitch, pulling yarn and pulling it up. So at the end of this, you should have 7 loops on your hook. And then again, yarning over and going through all 7 loops that we have here, like this. So this is a complete puff stitch that we are going to repeat throughout all the stitches here until we reach the very beginning. And then again, chaining 1 right after and moving forward with the next one. So doing 3 yarn overs and then pulling up yarn through this stitch. So at the end we have 7 loops on our hook like that, then yarning over and pulling through all of them like this. And once that's done, just chaining 1 and moving further with the next one. So keep on repeating this until you have 12 puff stitches in total, and I will meet you back again once we can finalize this round. And here I'm just completing the very last puff stitch here, as you can see, 7 loops and going through all of them, then just doing the final chain of 1 And now we can connect this round. So we will do that in the same way as we did it during the previous round, the first one. So we will have to do a slip stitch, and in this case I will do it here in this first puff stitch that we created here. So going through this stitch with my crochet hook like this, then grabbing yarn and pulling it through, and then pulling this loop through the loop that we already had, like that. So now we have connected it, and we can chain one, then make the loop looser like this. And then I'm just grabbing my scissors and cutting off the yarn, and as it's cut off, we can tighten it by pulling the loose piece of yarn here. And now we are done with the second round as well. So now we can move further with the third round, and for that I'm going to use this yellow color here. So our first step again is to attach the yarn, and in this case we will actually be attaching it here in between, like in the gaps between the stitches from the previous round. So again, it doesn't matter where exactly you are attaching it, it's totally up to you, and I will just use this space, let's say. And then I'm just grabbing my crochet hook and grabbing yarn, pulling it through one of the gaps here, and then just tightening it and attaching it by making a secure knot here, like this. And then we can get started with this round. So as we did before, we first have to pull up a loop here like this, so it helps us to get started, and then we just have to chain 3. So 1, 2 and 3. And again, this is going to just support us with creating the first stitch. And throughout this round we will be doing clusters of unfinished double crochets. So in each space we will have to do 4 unfinished double crochet clusters, but because of this chain of 3 that we have in the first one, here we will be doing only 3 of them. And for that, these are the steps that we have to do. So yarning over and going through this gap here, then grabbing yarn and pulling it up, then yarning over again and going through first 2 loops only. So this counts as 1 unfinished double crochet, and we just leave it here. And now we just have to prepare 2 more for this first stitch. So yarning over again, going through this space, grabbing yarn and pulling it up, and then yarning over and pulling through 2 like this. So these are 2 unfinished double crochets, and just making 1 more here. So again, pulling through only the first 2 loops here. So now we have this chain of 3 as well as 3 unfinished double crochets, and for this first stitch this is all we need. So now we can finalize, and we just have to yarn over and then go through all the loops that we had like this. And after that we have to chain 2, so 1 and 2, and now we can move further with the next space here. And for that, instead of doing 3 unfinished double crochets, we will have to do 4 of them. So let's do that together. So yarning over and going through this gap, then grabbing yarn and pulling up, yarning over and pulling through 2. So this is 1 unfinished double crochet. So repeating 3 more times. Like this. This creates as 2, then repeating 2 more, and just going through the first 2 loops, and then just creating the 4th one here as well, like this. So this gives us 4 unfinished double crochets, and we have 5 loops in total on our hook. And then we are just yarning over and going through all of these loops here, and then just chaining 2, 1 and 2, and then we can move further with the next space again. And in total, throughout this round, you will have to create 12 of these clusters in total. So we are now working on the 3rd one. And here we are finishing the 3rd one as well, and after each of them we have to chain 2. So keep on repeating this throughout this round to have 12 of them in total, and I will meet you back once again when we have to connect this round. And here I'm just finalizing the very last stitch here, so doing the last yarn over for this cluster and then chaining 2. And now we can connect this round again by doing a slip stitch. And in this case I'm doing it here on top of this cluster that we created in the very beginning. So going through that, grabbing yarn and pulling it through the loop that we had. And now we can chain one and make the loop looser, then grabbing our scissors and cutting off the yarn. And as it's cut off, we can tighten it by pulling it here. And we are done with the third round as well. So now we can start working on the fourth round, which is going to be our final round. And for that, I'm going to use this darker green color. And with this round, we will also establish the hexagon shape. So just as before, we first have to attach it to the previous round. So again, we will do it here in the gaps from the stitches from the previous round. So it's again up to you wherever you want to attach it. I'm just choosing a random stitch here and just grabbing yarn and pulling it through here and then attaching it by making a secure knot, just as we did before. So now we can get started, and first we just have to pull up a loop like this so we can actually get on going, and then we have to just chain 4. So 1, 2, 3 and 4. So this chain of 4 is going to count as 1 stitch again, and in this case it's going to be 1 treble crochet. And first we will be starting by making a corner, and for that we will have to do 3 treble crochets. So we already technically have 1, so we will have to do 2 more, and then we will do a couple of chains and then again 3 treble crochets here in this same space. So let's get started. So for treble crochet we have to yarn over twice like this, then going through this gap and grabbing yarn and pulling it up to have 4 loops in total, then yarning over and pulling through 2, yarning over and pulling through 2 like this, and then yarning over and pulling through remaining 2. So this counts as 1 treble crochet, and for this step we have to do 1 more. So again, yarning over twice, going through gap, pulling up loop, then yarning over and pulling through 2, yarning over and pulling through 2, and then yarning over and pulling through remaining 2. So here we have 3 stitches, one of them is chain of 4 and then 2 treble crochets. And this is half of the corner, so to complete the other half we first have to chain 2, so 1 and 2, and then we can finalize this corner by doing 3 treble crochets here in this same space. So let's do that. Starting to work on the first one here. So this is 1, then adding 2 more. Like this. Now we have 2, so just 1 more left to do, and here we have it. So this is our first corner for this hexagon shape, and then we can move further with the next space, and for that we will have to do 3 double crochets together in the same space. So already starting to work on that, so just doing regular double crochets. So this is 1, then doing another one like this, and then just remaining third one here. So here we have this corner for the hexagon, as well as we have these 3 double crochets for the edge here. And then we can move further with the next corner, and in that one we just have to repeat what we did here basically. So doing 3 treble crochets, then chain of 2 and another 3 treble crochets, all of them together in this same gap here. Here I have 3 treble crochets, so then just chaining 2, 1 and 2, and doing 3 more treble crochets in the same space again. Like this. Here we have another corner here, and then moving to the next gap here, where we are again doing 3 double crochets. So this is 1, 2 and 3. So you can see we are slowly starting to create the hexagon shape. And from now on you can see that the stitches that we have to do are very repetitive. So we have to do this corner of 3 treble crochets, chain of 2 and 3 treble crochets, all of them in one space. Then we do 3 double crochets in one space, and then again repeating the corner. So here you can see that after 3 double crochets we again just have to repeat the corner. So keep on following this pattern until you reach the end, and I will meet you back then when we can actually connect it.
And another useful tip that I didn't mention before is that you can actually weave in these loose pieces of yarn as you are doing stitches and kind of covering them by the stitches that you are doing. So here, for example, where I will have to do stitches here, I will just make sure that I am doing them so I'm also covering and hiding this loose piece of yarn here, so I don't have to weave in anything at the very end once I'm done with this. So in this way I'm saving a lot of time, so I don't have to do it afterwards. And here is our progress so far with the hexagon shape as well. So just keep on repeating all of these steps, and I will meet you back once I'm done as we agreed. We have all 6 corners that we need, so now we can finalize this round again by doing a slip stitch, and in this case we will be doing it here at the top of the 4th chain from the very beginning. So just going through this 4th chain here with our hook like this, then just grabbing yarn, pulling it through, and then pulling it through the loop that we already had, and we have connected this round as well. So now I'm just going to chain 1, pulling the loop looser, and then grabbing scissors, and then we can cut it off like this and just tightening it by pulling it to make sure that it's secure. And this is how our hexagon sunflower granny looks like. And in total, if we measure it from one side to the other, it is approximately 12 centimeters, so just keep that in mind. Otherwise, if you want to make it bigger, you can easily also add extra rounds for this. Feel free to also create multiple of them, so you can connect them together by placing them here as well as here and kind of build up the volume, so you can create some bigger creations such as blankets, cardigans, or whatever you can come up with. Otherwise, I really hope that this will be useful for you.
So that is basically it from me today. I really hope that you enjoyed this video, and I hope that this pattern is going to be useful for you in case you come up with some fun crochet creations where you could use this sunflower hexagon shape. And if you do, please share them with me. I'm super curious to see what you are creating. However, if you need any help with the pattern or if you have any questions, feel free to reach out in the comment section below and I will try to help you from there. And if you did enjoy this video, please give me a big thumbs up, and if you're new here, please subscribe, and I will see you later. Bye!